I actually just finished this at-home setup, and so I really want to show you what I'm using, all the tech, all the gear that I'm using to create the content on the podcast, and some of the new things that I've added. This is this little front playroom, and basically I've designed it as a studio that I can sit down and basically as quickly as possible press record without having to like adjust a bunch of things. So I'll break down all the tools that I'm using and everything else, all the gear, all the lights and everything, and I'm going to do it as fast as possible. I'll start with the cameras. I have two Sony A7 IVs, so there and there. Both of those cameras are awesome. I love the Sony Alpha platform. Fantastic cameras. I like shooting in full frame. You can shoot with something that's called an APS-C sensor, which has a little bit of a crop factor to it. Totally fine. Sometimes those cameras are a little bit cheaper, but I had these cameras, so I'm using both of them to get two different angles. On this camera, I have a prime lens, so it's a 1.8 20mm lens. Prime just means it's not going to be zoom. It's not going to like go in and out in terms of the focal length. So that is a little bit different than this one. This one is a G Master lens. It's a 16mm to 35mm. So basically that means that you can change the focal length. It can kind of zoom in or zoom out, essentially, is what it means. I am not like a camera expert by any means. I love talking to videographers and other people who really know what they're doing. And so anything I've learned is just from that. But it's kind of fun. It's kind of like adult Legos, maybe. Very expensive Legos. This fancy gadget on the front is a teleprompter. I really haven't used a teleprompter to create any content in the past, but one of the things that I've noticed is it generally takes me a little bit longer to create content because I have to think, and I also want to make sure that my thoughts are coming out very concisely, clearly, and I want to be able to quickly deliver my message. People's attention spans are so short, and I don't want to ramble. And if you know me, you know that I can talk and I will ramble, so I don't want to do that. So I have this Elgato teleprompter, and basically what I'm going to be doing, I don't like reading off of a teleprompter because it feels really robotic to me. I'm just going to have bullet points so I stay tracking through what I'm doing. I do have on top of here a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. Is this mic? It's a shotgun mic. I'm not going to use it as a primary source of audio. I'm just going to use it for backup audio in case something fails with my other mic. The mic that I'm using on this, which is going to end up being my main camera when I'm doing talking head videos, just like this one, to camera. The mic that I'm using for this are these little DJI mics, and I don't know if you can see they're going to power on right now. I love DJI. Their mics that they've come out recently are awesome. I'm actually today just using this little mic from Hollyland. It's an awesome mic as well. It comes in a little case just like this. Same deal, flips open, and you can clip it on different places just like that, but that one's charging up. The other interesting thing that I did here was I didn't want to have to constantly be worried about charging batteries, which is something that I have been in the last couple of years. I have like 4 or 5 extra batteries and I'm constantly switching them out. So I used basically a dummy battery, and what this does is this links right into the camera. It actually just continuously powers the camera, which is super great. Now I have 2 different stands, basically tripods that I'm using. This one's a little bit more heavy duty, and I'm using what I had. I had a studio back in San Diego that I actually had all my gear set up in, and I downsized quite a bit from that, so I'm just kind of picking and choosing a couple of the things that I had, and I've been selling the rest of it, which is kind of awesome, or giving it away, which is cool. I actually gave away a lot of mics, which I love. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention that I have on here is I have these cages. In fact, let me see if I can show you this. This part right here is called a cage, and basically it just gives you an additional couple mounting points for different things. So the camera itself is in this part here, and then basically the cage just mounts onto the side of it. And the cage and all the attachments are by SmallRig, so you can kind of see the setup there. All right, and then everything is powered through my laptop, so I'm using this as a hub that powers my laptop. It also has a card reader in it. It has a bunch of different connections, HDMI connections. I can also run my iPad directly in there, and I'm using my iPad as a confidence monitor through using the Sony Capture and Monitor app. That's an awesome app. Sometimes doesn't work if you don't have the right software and firmware uploaded, so I just finished updating all my firmware, which is great, but I'm going to be using that as a monitor. I want to make sure that I'm seeing what the final product is going to look like so that I don't waste any time shooting, because again, usually I only have a short amount of time to film before all the kids, I've got 7 kids, and it's like the whole thing. So want to make sure that I'm good to go there. I also have the Elgato Facecam 4K. So this camera, what I'm using is the Elgato Facecam, because I can actually take this teleprompter and I can use an attachment and slide it right on there if I want to use a teleprompter while I'm doing a Zoom call, in case I'm doing a webinar for Viva or something like that. So I have this set up here. Maybe a little bit of overkill. I could probably just use a normal webcam, but just in case I don't want to use this, the webcam straight out of the computer, this one acts really almost more like a DSLR or mirrorless camera where you can adjust settings in a lot more of a fine-tuned way than you can with the camera out of here. So that is what I'm running with that right here. This thing, in terms of lighting, it's a small little light that basically I gives you a little bit of light on your hair, kind of like it sounds. I'm using this as my main light. I'm probably going to move it down a little bit. And then I have a couple lights in the back that I'm using to make the background look cool. One of the problems with this setup is I have this window right in front of me, which is great if, I'm shooting quickly in the daylight. However, it also gives me a kind of a gnarly glare. You can see that. So it's getting a little bit darker. It's not as bad right now, but if I had that open, you'd actually be able to see quite a bit in the background. You can kind of see that a little bit. So either I have to put a covering over that TV, which I probably won't do, or some curtains here probably are going to come next. Haven't got the sign off from the wife yet on that. But yeah, that's my setup. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them as much as I could. But it's a lot of fun putting all this gear together. The desk is a standing desk. I will say one thing about the standing desk. If I could do this again, I would not get one with a glass top. This was at Costco. It was like $100. It was a great deal. It's a standing desk. It goes up and down, which is awesome. However, it's also glass, and so I can't really clamp anything to it. And there are some awesome setups where you actually can clamp a lot of this gear all on one stand, and you can clamp it directly to the desk. And because this has a glass top, I really can't do that. So the one downside with that, but otherwise, it's an awesome desk. And one other thing I would say with this one, if you accidentally bump these, you want to make sure you lock the controls right here, because if you accidentally bump them, you're screwed. The thing is going to start going up automatically and it'll hit some of your other gear potentially. So anyway, hope this has been helpful or interesting, and I may make some other videos around the setup and everything that we're using if this was relevant. All right, peace.